Everybody. I had to wear the hoodie today. I was going to wear a sport jacket, but I said I'm at home. But when I saw the Monique yesterday in the video put her hood up, I said, you know what, I got to do this too. So I want to welcome everybody from all over the world, which we have here. And I want to welcome our guest, Monique Pryor and Shawne Morgan, who are going to tell us about their experiences on The Amazing Race. We had an amazing discussion when I was going over this on Friday. Monique and I had a wonderful discussion. She said, could she bring Shawne? I said, absolutely. This would be really exciting. So I'm very, very excited for this. It's going to be an adventure. It's really reality TV going on because we're doing this live. So I just want to make one disclaimer before we go. This is done live. I don't have a delay. I have no ability. So if somebody drops an F-bomb or anything like that, it's okay. We're all human. There's no FCC involved here, so we will be absolutely fine like that. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Monique. I'm going to introduce Shawne, and they could tell us a little bit about themselves, and then we'll go on to questions. If you have any questions, by the way, please PM me, and I will then get you on the air. And you will come up, I will put you, please turn your cameras on, and then everyone will talk to each other that way. Okay, so without further ado, here is Monique, and here is Shawne.
Hi, everyone. Professor, thank you so much for having us here today. Shawne is one of my best friends and like a sister to me. But it didn't always start out that way. And I'll let her jump in here. She actually is a year younger than me. And so we were at the same college, and she wanted to pledge the sorority I was in. And so if you familiar with, it's kind of like a boss or a direct report. And so I was more like a big sister at the time. And then I graduated before her. But then we both started law school at the same time in different states. I think she was in Illinois and I was in New York. And we both signed up for a study abroad program, but we found out from our sorority sisters, hey, I think, Shawne is in the same program that you are. And so we connected over the phone, not internet or like this was just some time ago. We graduated a little while ago from law school. And we studied abroad in law school together in Kenya. And I tell people this, because Shawne, like I said, we were more associates. I mean, I probably, used to try to scare her most of the time on campus in undergrad when she was trying
we saw each other passing.
Right, and make her call me big sister. But a true friendship grew in, that's an understatement, in Kenya. Shawne, you want to pick it up from there? We were mates in Kenya.
I mean, it's amazing, honestly, that we ended up in the same program. And it wasn't until we saw the list of students traveling to Kenya and we're like, wait a minute, you're going? And at that point, we both were in law school and I was in Chicago, Monique, as she said, was in New York. And we're like, wait a minute, you're going as well? She had graduated, so we didn't really have time to bond, but we knew we both loved traveling. So that's where, for us, we were in Kenya for 2 months, right, Monique?
Yeah, 2 months.
At the University of Nairobi, and had no idea. I mean, we knew we both loved the idea of being in another country. We were by ourselves then, and we didn't know at the time how it was going to grow and where it was going to take us from there. So, yeah, that was really the start.
It was, and we had
adventures then.
Yeah, that circumstance, that situation we were in Kenya helped prepare us.
Absolutely.
The idea of the Amazing Race in our head. So I don't know about you, both Shawne and I are from African-American families, and we grew up naively, right? I mean, we knew the continent of Africa had their struggles, but our families taught us, that we came from kings and queens and these beautiful tribes, which there are in Kenya, as well as other parts of the motherland. And so we were ready. And we hadn't traveled.
We thought we were ready.
Right, we thought we were ready. We hadn't traveled so far abroad. That was probably the furthest trip either one of us had taken. And we got there. I mean, I flew in at night, and so there are no lights. It was pitch black. We had no telephone in our room. I don't know why I thought I was staying at the Marriott. hotel, but it was, you know, so we really depended on each other. I mean, we came across flying roaches that were like this big. You know, it wasn't until we went to the coast to Malindi and Mombasa, which I just love. Sean and I always said we were going to go back. We had some sort of vacation, but we really were surviving and depending on one another. Me more so on Sean.
No.
Sean's mother taught her how to cook and mine didn't. So Sean would run 2 sticks together we were broke. And so we would eat well. And so that really, deepened our friendship. She's the first person. I never had my eyebrows waxed. And so she waxed my eyebrows.
Remember that?
Yeah. So
that is hilarious.
Yeah. So, and we fell in love with art, and I ended up marrying an artist, and both Sean is a lover of music. And so, so a true bond developed. And then, we started having our families, and Amazing Race previewed on TV. And Sean called me, and I said, I know what you're thinking. We are going to do this show one day.
Absolutely.
Said, absolutely. And so that's how it started.
And that was, at that time, we were both just in the space of now careers, then having children. And we just said, at some point, we have to make this happen. I moved from New York to Chicago, and then moved to Maryland. And it's just amazing. When we talked about just being at the right space, right time, people have often asked, would you do it now? And that was the time for it. Our children, believe it or not, with them being smaller at the time, even from the application, it just all fell into place, which is, we submitted the process for getting on Amazing Race. It's so funny. You see these shows and you think how simple it looks like it is. And it's so much effort. From Monique and I, we did our video, right, Monique? We did the first video. We met up on the Turnpike, Jersey Turnpike, because again, she's in Jersey, I'm in Maryland. My husband was patient enough to film us because we're like, Monique was like, we have to get it in. We got to get it in by this timeline. And we're doing this from 2 different places. So we needed to have it FedEx. We needed the video. My husband edited the video, but what our sound quality, something was off or something. Oh no, they asked us to resubmit another video.
In a Burger King, right? We really filmed it in a Burger King.
Yeah, we were in a Burger King on the side of the Turnpike where we could meet up. But we came together. This is just so organic. When we shot again, it was during President Obama's first inauguration, and Monique came down. And with her family. So Eric, Monique are here with their kids. Our house is just kid land as well.
As usual. I walked in from being on the road for 4 hours, and we want peace and quiet and relax. And Sean knows
at somebody else's house.
Right, at somebody else's house. I know I have high standards. And so she knows a ton of people, way more. People think I know people, but Sean and Cliff. So we walk in, it's probably 10 o'clock at night, and there are kids and families all over the place. I probably was in traffic. And then, our kids were so close. Our youngest, we had our kids ironically at the same time. The show's producers like, did you plan this? I'm like, no, we did not plan to go to law school together. We did not plan to have our kids at the same time, but their birthdays are near each other. And so our youngest were like two, and the oldest were close to 5. Mm-hmm. And so we're sitting there trying to have a conversation with our husbands, and Sean and I are trying to just catch up on life
and strategize.
Yeah, no, literally in the moment, as probably Sean's daughter was pulling on her hair, I looked over to my husband. I said, okay, roll the tape. This is it. Roll this tape right now. This is our lives. And then Sean's like, yeah. And then we'll cut to us in our sexy inauguration gowns and tell working mothers, this is who, our lives are crazy with kids and we pour so much into them. But our goal was to help mothers remember who they were before they had a family.
Absolutely.
And still be that and balance both.
And without even knowing that was our theme, it just, because it was natural. So where we were trying to come together in the Burger King, make it work. just being in our regular setting, toys, when I think about just everything that was happening in the background, and that's what the producers who watched the clips, they said, you all, we were like, what made you choose us? And they said the first, honestly, see, they had thousands of entries, like 30,000 entries or so.
Oh, it was like 100,000, Shawne.
Oh, that's crazy.
Teams.
Well,
Yeah.
that's even nuts.
Yeah.
Even more, yeah, crazier. But they said we really didn't have time to look at a whole lot of video footage, first 30 seconds. And that's something that I stress now with, first impressions. But they said, we saw you all in your natural setting. I mean, and the kids were running around. We're like, okay, wait, let's, seriously, it wasn't even supposed to be a part of the video, but it just was. Then we cut to us at the inauguration, and there was a picture. I think that we did a picture or video in our dresses from the inauguration. And so, just to show the stark contrast between just being in this this motherly setting and what mothers do. You're multitasking, what parents do. You're multitasking, you're trying to make it happen, and then still finding time to have that balance. So that's what they said, that's what got us, chosen for that, that got their attention for that video there.
So this, you got on, you had, what was it, 100,000 people there, in front of you trying to get it. What do you think? I know you said having the kids there, it made you look natural, but what did you do to start preparing for this? And how long did it take until you finally found out you were going to be on the show? You put the tape out there. How long did this take till you found out this is going to be the thing? And was it season 16 that they put you on, or did you think you'd be on the season before? Something like that.
Yeah, so I'll start and Shawne can jump in. So in actuality, when we taped the clip for Burger King, like Shawne said, they couldn't hear us. They couldn't hear the audio, but the producer, I think I was sharing this with you, David, the producers at the time, were probably a little younger than us. And they, they're these 20-something-year-olds who are pitching the executive producers. They're pitching their people. So if it's 10 producers on a show, they have to pick out their top 50 tapes out of 100,000. So they pick out their top 50. And so that one producer liked us or whatever. She's like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And so, Shawne, I don't know if you remember, when we were ready to retape it, Shawne or somebody in your family got sick, Shawne.
No, I was in the hospital. Yeah, and it was right before my birthday. So that wasn't the time either. Yeah.
Time, and we just,
something I forgot about that.
Who are of faith on this call, and a lot of people at our college are, we just had faith that it wasn't our time, it wasn't the right moment for us. And I said, Shawne, let's just surrender it. And she, she's definitely, I call her my prayer warrior. I said, we will be fine. And so we probably were applying for season 14 and then 15, and then so we couldn't do that, and so we just had to wait. And then so that's when we did the Obama inauguration. But from that point, when we submitted the tape, they're like, hey, we like you, and it's so Hollywood, right? They get you hyped. And so the producer calls, they were mainly calling you, Shawne. It's like, okay, you guys made it to the final 100 out of 100,000. So students, like, that in and of itself is an accomplishment.
It's a large feat,
that somebody was attracted to us and thought that we were going to make an impact on their viewers, to be chosen out of, 100 people, get down to 100 people. So Shawne would get a call, and Shawne would call me, we made it to 100. I think meanwhile, I had started a new job, and I'm like, yay. Oh God.
How's this going to happen?
Right. Shawne, we both have been entrepreneurs and still are. Shawne has a hair business and sells hair products. And I, at the time, was doing consulting with law and art with my husband. And so I took a full-time job for the first time in a long time. And so then she gets the call, you made it to the final 50. So at that point, right, Shawne, they send us a contract that is like this thick.
Oh yeah, you're basically signing away your life. And we've seen contracts, but nothing like what CBS sent.
Yeah. So, and there was no editing that, or I was like, okay, we're signing our life away. We couldn't write a book within 5 or 10 years of the show. they wanted to know some very personal things, which was ridiculous. But
They also contacted, remember, they contacted all of our family. So once we really got down to being on the show, or they knew that we were going to be on, they had to have releases from all of our family. And that's, I mean, your immediate family, just so in terms of confidentiality, indemnity, so that they wouldn't be sued. That was very interesting.
And they couldn't write a book about it as well. But when we get to, I'm going to back up, Shawne. When we got to the final fifth, we signed the contract, and then we get the call that said you made it to the they pick 11 teams to pick on the show. 11 teams. They said you made it to the final 20 teams, and we are flying you to LA. We were like, what? We were just,
and we couldn't tell anybody.
And we couldn't,
except for our husband. And we didn't tell the kids at that point.
Yeah,
we couldn't tell anybody.
So that probably, Shawne, don't you think once we got that call, no, we didn't start training then. So we were.
No, we did, Monique. We started taking more swim classes.
Yeah, we could swim. Now, whether we remembered how to swim, at our best or properly from when we were 5 years old, we did. So I said, I think I need to take some real swimming lessons. And, I had a personal trainer and so forth. And so we were just really giddy and excited. So we get there, we meet the other 19 teams that we're competing against to get on this show. And, the producers are funny. They definitely, Hollywood just gets you to drink the Kool-Aid, right?
How about that? And they're pitting you against,
yes,
not a bad way, but
teams.
Yeah.
It took us a few days to realize when they say, I see Monica's face because she's a young mom, Monica, like, you are the best. You two are the best out of all. And we're like, she likes us.
We are, yeah.
We're on the way to the plane. I'm like, they were just trying to soup our heads up, And so, so while we were there, we were sequestered in this hotel with the teams. They ran us through mock mazes and trials and see how you would perform.
Psychological tests. Like, the most extensive tests I've seen, even for background checks, and I'm sure like people go through for CIA, FBI, I'm not even kidding you. And they ran through a battery of tests where I'm like, what are we signing up for? Yeah, but it was amazing to see the other people. They didn't want you, the goal, would you say, Monique? They didn't want us to get too chummy with people, because they wanted that natural, just sort of that instinct where the competitive instinct, and that also so alliances didn't form too early. And we saw people we didn't see again. Yeah,
that's true. Mm-hmm. That's true. And so as we're meeting, we see the host, meet the host. We're just meeting some people we hadn't, never met before, and young producers who are rooting for us, right? And so at a certain time, it was time for us to wear the gear we would wear if we were on the show and be presented to the executive producers at CBS. So we go to the CBS lot, like where all these great shows are taped, and it's just an amazing experience. And so everybody was kind of nervous because you're meeting like the CEO of CBS and chairmen of the board. And
all the suits.
And literally everyone had on a suit. And it was like, I felt like, I don't know about you, Shawne, but I felt like for the first time, I know what like the Tonight Show host may feel. Like we were performing. We had to,
Oh yeah.
Producers like, you can do it. You're the best. You're going to get this. And like I said, Naomi, they're just souping you up, right? And so we go in there, and it was really, we had to perform and show our best selves, and it was mentally and physically exhausting.
Oh yeah. You were on, and funny, the other thing, I think we've talked about it, Monique, you felt like for people who do this day in and day out, you're literally up, and then you're like, you come down. We were exhausted, and we hadn't even run a race, mind you. This was just the auditioning process.
Yeah.
And they made it clear too that it wasn't, obviously there are no guarantees, but you just had a glimmer, like, I mean, even to go on the lots, to go to the studios, I don't think we were in Studio City. The funny thing is, and we didn't tell them this, I saw somebody I knew. I forgot she was a writer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope she doesn't see me. I hope she doesn't see me. And I'm like, Monique. And, we're the two Black girls, like, don't let her see us. And she didn't know, she didn't recognize us. But it was just, I mean, all of that, keeping it in secret, it was a lot mentally, even before running the race, the pre-race, as we say. It was a lot to take in.
I mean, and we could see the suits. I remember this distinctly, this one old, senior woman in a white suit. I mean, she just looked bad. And they didn't crack a smile or anything. So you didn't know how they felt. And then one producer said, Monique, where are you from again? And I said, West Orange, New Jersey.
That's right.
That's where I'm from.
Mm.
Oh, really? So I felt like I had him, and I started naming restaurants.
That connection.
Remember, he went to the local high school.
That's right.
That was a high. And back to Shawne's point, I don't know if I shared that. As she said, we had a psychologist on site, on staff. So all these reality shows, if you don't know, they all have them. They have a therapist on site or on call for you to call. She would check in with us while we were there competing to get on the show. But even while we were on the show, she was on call 24/7. We never had to call her, but
in case we flipped out.
Right, exactly.
By the way, how long was that audition process?
Let's see. We've submitted. I remember in November, Monique, we did the tape. Well, inauguration was January. Wow, that's a good question. January was inauguration. That's when we did our tape, submitted it. We didn't go on until the following November.
Yeah, we didn't go on.
So but what happened was we submitted, and they told us, hey, they have, you're trying to put the right mix of people together for a story. So that's when they called us initially and were sort of like courting us. And then we were going on with our regular lives, but it wasn't until the following year that, hopefully you guys can hear me because I'm getting some wind here. I'm going to move inside. The following year, no, the end of the year. Yeah, that was January. So in November was when we actually filmed. But the audition itself, that was over a weekend. Remember, Monique, we started out with all these people, and then it was a process of elimination. When we did go, I felt like that was in a warmer month when we actually went out to LA. And
Shawne, do you remember? No, remember this. We actually.
This is all coming back, by the way.
We're live, so it's perfectly okay.
We're like, wow.
It's reality TV here. It's
things of earlier today. We hopped on a quick call and said a nice
and
prayer.
Things we hadn't talked about in years.
I don't remember that. But we actually, the season that we auditioned for, we actually did not make
they didn't pick us for that one.
So we actually auditioned for season 15. And if you were a true Amazing Race fans, that was the season with the Globetrotters.
That's right.
So we had met them there, that audition, and we didn't make it. And we were put on the wait list. It's like, you're on the wait list. And we were kind of deflated. And once again, we were like, it's not meant to be, blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
And then they called us and said, we're going to put you on season 16. And we, it's just divine order. We
absolutely
did not stress about it or anything.
Yeah, no, that was, yeah. Were you going to ask a question there, David?
No, go ahead. I'm gonna let you complete it. I'm gonna go on. We're gonna go again. My question was, how did it feel? Was the feeling you finally made it? Like this wasn't gonna happen. So forth. What was that feeling of finally knowing you're gonna be on there and all that? How did that feel? What was that like?
We're like, what do we? I mean, it was surreal because we're like, through, as Monique said, all these people. We were chosen to do this. And then we started thinking about what is it that we want to come out of this? And that was important because we had small children, we had businesses, we're wives. And we through the whole process, we felt a sense of responsibility in how we were portrayed. And recognizing, it's so funny, when you watch it, you know that there's editing or whatever that takes place with any show, but you don't know the extent of that until you're in the thick of it and see how it works. And then afterwards, to see it. So we had to go through it, meaning run the race, and then actually view it with you all. Like, to hear you say, David, it was painful. That's so funny. We had, I mean, just to fast forward and we can back up, but we had people's children who were like devastated when we were eliminated, and we had already gone through that. So yeah, we were upset. I mean, I remember Monique and I were like, oh my God, did this just happen? But it was such a process. And then to have to watch it in February, we filmed it in November, watch it in February. But there were so many wonderful things that took place between that time period. People always will tell you what took place when we're eliminated, because that's always a question people ask. But people's kids, they're like, please talk to my child. Tell her, everything's okay. We're like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? One of those, she's graduating from college now. And I'll never forget, her dad was like, she is devastated. You guys have got to talk to her. Or the people who said, Monique, remember, who said, oh, you guys are a lot smaller than you looked on TV.
Yeah.
That was like one of the big ones we heard. Yeah. Oh, you're actually smaller.
Let me just ask you, when you found out you were on, how long was it until you actually started taping the show from the time you found out? And what did you have to do to get yourself to go on? Because, I mean, you had to put your lives on hold, literally, from what I'm gathering.
Sean, I think it was that summer. So we sent the tape in January. And then that summer, because I started my new job, literally.
Oh, yeah, because we had to get passports.
Summer, we had to.
I had to renew
that summer. And then I had to tell my job, like, in September, and that I would be gone for a month from right before Thanksgiving to right before Christmas. So we missed Thanksgiving with our family.
We celebrated Monique's birthday while we were actually doing the race. And I wanted to get her something. She's like, don't you spend that money. Don't you do that? Yeah. Thanksgiving, we were in the hotel. Now that's when it felt, that process was like nothing. Actually, it reminded me, it's a little bit like Legend. But when we came in, you're sequestered like a jury. And what was interesting is you have they tell you what you cannot bring. They have a list of things you can't bring. This would be interesting today. I mean, you couldn't have a phone. So we
couldn't talk to our family.
Yeah.
And
from the time they brought us in.
For 4 weeks, we could not speak to our kids, our husband. The only communication my husband received on a weekly basis was a one call that says she's safe and she's healthy. That was it.
Yeah.
They couldn't tell him where we were or anything like that.
What happened with
that was something.
Both of you known as the moms on the show and the attorneys. What happened? What do you have to do with your kids? Good
question.
What happened there again? Because your life is being put on hold, but you still have a life outside of this.
Absolutely. We have wonderful husbands who were holding it down, really. Yeah. Our husbands, they were doing the drop-offs, the pickups, and our kids were younger at the time. That was what year
so
was
they
it?
were. So my youngest was 3. It was 10 years ago. Over 10 years ago when we taped.
Over 10 years, yeah.
My youngest was 3. She actually turned 4 when I was on this show, when I was taping. So I just like, we can't talk about this on the show because the trollers, they weren't called trollers back then, but they would have definitely talked about me.
And so what?
Yeah, so what? Exactly. I'm sorry, I have like my landscaper in the back, but
it's real.
Right, this is real. And so I forget your question, but so I had to, I think why I was so emotional when we got eliminated, and not that my dear friend, Shawne is one of the most loving people I know. She saw a picture of my daughter yesterday and this morning, and just had a lot of emotion. So, but I was very emotional because I had to, my parents couldn't support me for 4 weeks straight, or support my husband. He had to go to work. Somebody had to, support and dropping the kids off and stuff. He didn't have a flexible schedule. I think at the time, I don't know, I think Cliff did. They were entrepreneurs, both of them. So they might have, but their parents could come in. But I had to fly in my niece, Eric's niece, to come in for 2 weeks, and my mom. So I had this whole baton passing on for all these people who sacrificed their time. And I just felt like, wow, I let them down. I let them down.
Wow.
So Shawne and I actually watched the elimination season together. She drove up to my home, and we tell the kids who were 4 and 7 at the time that we were getting eliminated.
Oh, we didn't tell them?
Nope.
Wow.
We didn't tell them. And I remember my youngest, when she saw that scene, she was welling up.
Oh,
yeah. I remember Naya. She was like, no, her daughter's on. Oh my God, you did that.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit. I want to talk about when the show first started. What was it like when you first started taping episode 1?
Well, even before the episodes, when we before, what was interesting? Okay, so they choose a certain location you're going to leave from. We were on a bus. We left from Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh wow! Yeah,
remember, but near the airport, and
in LA.
In LA, right. And the windows, everything, they put us on a bus that I don't know, it was tinted out. It was really interesting. And they dropped us off. And we didn't know what time we were leaving. It was like you just had to be ready. Certain clothes that had insignia, certain logos, they made us cover up the logos on the clothes even before we left. But then we got on this bus, and it was like early in the morning. By the time we actually got to the location, they just dropped us off. And it wasn't like a bad place where they dropped us off, but it was people who were with us. When we did start talking to each other, there was someone from LA. They didn't know where we were. They're like, we have no idea. So the funny thing is, nobody knew what your thing was. No one knew what your title was. They didn't know, and we didn't want them to know we were attorneys. They thought we were athletes, which is hilarious.
Oh, God, yes.
They said we're like, and so people were saying, yeah, we figured y'all was some track stars. We're like, what? Like, you were running, you guys were running.
We just had a baby.
I'm like, all right, I'll take that. But no, they and we just said we were moms, and our thinking to that was, let's try to build this, where people felt not necessarily sorry for us, but just felt that alliance that we could form with people. And it happened naturally. We had the ECA, East Coast Alliance.
You're good, Shawne.
Funny
thing when we cause havoc at CBS, they have to see what you're going to wear throughout the taping. And we had Shawne got these shirts made called Mompreneurs. And we wore that a couple times on the show. And when it aired, we got a cease and desist letter from the copyright owners of Mompreneur. CBS called us,
and we're like, we have to cover. They blurted out our shirts.
Yeah, they blurted out. So they dropped us in LA somewhere, downtown LA. And if you know anything about LA, the public transportation system is awful. It's just awful. They did tell us before we started that you're always supposed to stay with your cameraman and your audio person, your camera person, your audio person. So we always had audio on us at all times, except for when we slept. And you can't leave them, nor can you be separated from your partner. So they drop us off in the middle of LA somewhere and say, the first person to make it to your next stop is LAX airport, and the first person to make it to the airport without using public transportation, when you can't use a private anything, you have to use public transportation, wins the first pit stop. And so from there, we just took off in different directions trying to figure this out.
But people were following us. It was the craziest thing. That's when they said they thought we were track stars. And the funny thing is
the
when
other teams were following us.
the other teams, right? People, it's funny when we saw it, it didn't air that way. So we had to get over quickly how things took place to how it was edited. It's just the nature of, they have all these people, all these 12 teams initially? Because there were, 11. And everybody has a cameraman. So we had to get over that really quick. But to think about it, Monique, we were running through downtown LA. And so you could ask people, you could find out, how to get here or there, but it was insane because this is a city where we've been to, but you've never done it on foot. And so we're looking, then we got smart. This is the other part. And not just for us, I wish they would have shown strategically certain things that we had to pick up on our own. We saw that, wait a minute, we're in front of everybody. There's also a process that you don't see on TV. Whenever you stop to talk to someone, you had to get a release signed by that person. So if every time Monique and I are in front and we are getting the information and we're getting the release, it's doing what? It's slowing us down.
Yeah.
So
the cameraman or arty man have to stop. Hey, stop.
Get the
We got to
release.
sign the release. So it's so much things that go on behind the scenes that you don't know. Also, we had to send them our passport so we can get all these visas, and they trick you actually. And so we got back all these visas.
Right.
Stamps. Oh my God, we're going to Amsterdam. We're going to
We started researching all these places.
and then it's fake. I mean, the stamps are real. They got all these.
So think about the budget for that.
Yeah,
that's
all these visas.
Actually, as you're talking about budgets, how much of a budget did they give you to get around?
Well,
just
for us, we had little or no money. And the idea was, and there were rules. So we had, Monique, they gave us, maybe if it was $40 at this place, you got money in intervals. But when we talk about the budget in terms of production, sorry about that. They shared with us, a little background. They shared with us, they asked us when we flew from place to place, they said, please save your tickets if you don't use them. We've actually spent or lost over $300,000 just in canceled flights that weren't taken. So yeah, all of the money, we had little or no money and you had to make it work. Yeah. And that was the fun part.
Right. So they would give you like $20 for this leg. You have $20 to spend for this leg. And that was your, that could be food. That could be transportation. So I believe Shawne had the bright idea. She made these snacks of candy. She's like, we can just sell them. I forgot about that. So back then the internet was around, but it wasn't, social media wasn't like it is now. So on the plane, so when we were the first team to arrive to LAX, so we won that leg of the race, which means you get to leave first. And so we were headed to, I think we were going to Chile.
Yeah.
And so
South America.
The plane was pretty empty. And so
you're booking your own flight.
You're booking on your flight and all of that. And so we had to, we couldn't tell people what we were doing, taping a show. We just couldn't say that we were on an amazing race. So we had to make, Shawne and I are Christians by faith. So we got to say it so we don't lie. We were lying. We were lying. And then we were asking,
the Lord forgave us.
You got to play the game, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So we felt like, and then I started feeling for, people who do have to survive like this. We were like, we don't have any money. Can you please buy this bag of candy for us? We just need $2. And some people gave us $50, especially before we got on the plane, like in the airport.
Do you remember, Monique, there were rules though. In the US, you couldn't ask for money. So we didn't ask for money when we were in the States. There were rules that you could not ask, you couldn't beg for money. Now, the funny thing is that, remember Steve, who's the baseball player, at some point, we were somewhere, the coach, right, third base coach, he saw someone he knew who gave him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we're like, but that's just the nature of the game. We were, at that point, we were out of the States.
Yeah, we were out of the States. Funny story about Steve. So Steve was a third base coach for the Cleveland Indians, Major League Baseball. And we stayed in contact.
He was such a
story.
nice guy.
My husband is 6'5", So Steve comes to play the New York Yankees. You know, I can't sit through 11 innings, but to go into a Yankees game.
9 innings.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, 9 innings. See, flat. And Shawne taught me how to laugh at myself too. So anyway, 9 innings. So he gives us dugout seats, right? So we're sitting behind the Cleveland Indians. We go down to the pit, take pictures of them. I think I have my niece and my kids with me. My husband is 6'5". And so we take pictures and gives us the ball. So as we're coming up, leaving, it's all these Yankee fans. And they start the turn dapping up my husband, patting him on the back. Oh, did you play professional ball? How'd you get down there? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, excuse me. I was a reality TV star. The funny thing, David, they gave me, communications gave me a script to say reality TV star. I'm like, I cannot say that. So that's where all those bloopers. So I made fun of the fact that no, we're not stars. So, but anyway, go back to. I didn't mean it.
I can now call you boss, actually. So.
Oh,
sorry.
That's funny. So go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. So one thing I didn't ask is, what were you allowed to bring with you? I mean, you spoke about it a little bit, but you really, if you go, I mean, how much could you bring? I know my wife goes away. She's not watching this right now, but I know my wife goes away. We have 3 big suitcases that we take.
Oh,
what were you allowed to bring with us?
Oh, I wish we had it now. Do you still have your bag?
I don't have mine. I don't have my bag. Oh God, I threw all that stuff away.
Yeah.
Bring a flashlight. We bought one of those. I went to, the first time I heard of REI, the big camping out store, was when I was doing the Amazing Race. So I got all these.
We had that light for the headlight.
The headlight. I think
you couldn't have electrical. You couldn't have an electric anything. So we had a compass. Ooh, we should have. Oh, we needed that compass for one leg. But yeah, whatever clothes you could bring as much as you wanted to in terms of clothes or whatever. They just warned you because anything you bring, anything you were allowed to bring, you had to carry in your backpack. So we were listen, I probably had 2 pairs of pants, 2 pairs of undergarment. I mean, we were trying to be minimalist. Yeah.
Okay? We probably bought
people were dumping stuff, leaving things, giving things away.
Yeah.
We
had a pillow. We probably had pillows. I mean, it's just.
Oh, the travel. Yeah. We had inflatable. Yeah. And shoes. We had 2 pairs of shoes in case you messed them up.
Bathing suit.
I mean, yeah, bathing suit. Yeah, you're right. Glasses. Oh, the mosquito repellent, which we definitely needed.
Yeah, but like when they had our cell phones, you couldn't.
Yeah, they took all of that and sealed it when we came to LA. Yeah, that's so funny. But it fit in a backpack, in the campers backpacks. Those were the type, and the better the backpack, the better it was. I can say though, my sciatic, by the time we left, I was just
TMI.
My sciatic was on fire. Really, we did something.
It was strenuous, yeah.
It was
stressful.
Everybody said this to other contestants. People were complaining, like some people were like, you know what, I'm getting out of here. I didn't sign up for Survivor. I didn't realize, because they don't show how rigorous it is. And that's what we kept saying. We're like, oh, they don't show any of this. They make it look like you're traveling and you're resting. And that was the thing too. Some places, we got to Chile, we went to Salvador. There were some places we had long layovers, but then you would have a short one.
Right. We had to sit in a bus terminal
overnight.
That pales in comparison to Port Authority.
Oh, yeah.
Just open bodegas and,
that was your birthday. We celebrated your birthday coming.
We
were overnight.
And,
because there were no buses leaving.
No over hours or whatever. So overnight, it was just,
It was, and then we stayed at a hotel. There was a hotel, you guys, that I don't know if any of us would ever stay there. We're like, just sleep in your clothes. Just sleep in what you have on. And also you couldn't have, oh yeah. But there were dogs. I mean, they were having a party. So meanwhile, in our brains, we don't know what day it is, similar to now. We didn't know what day it was, but clearly people were living their lives. So it was like a party going on that night. we couldn't have an electric clock. So we had to, you could have an arm clock, right? I mean, an arm watch with an alarm on it, but it couldn't have any navigational, like none of these smart watches would ever fly. I don't know if that's changed, but you couldn't have anything that they felt would give you an edge over someone else. And we had, I mean, down to, we found the socks, the smart wool socks that you apparently can wear for many days. So, I mean, all of those things made, just anything to make travel easier. And what was amazing though, you saw how you could do with so much less.
Yeah. We couldn't bring any travel books. But in the airport, this is how we got in trouble with one team. We actually, when we went into one of the gift shops and
that was good.
Realized we were going to Chile, we found the one travel book in the store on Chile. And, was it Chile? It probably was South America.
South America.
South America. And we opened it up and I don't tell anybody this. We ripped out a couple pages in case the other team.
No, you hid the book.
Oh, I hid the book. Right. No, that was it.
You didn't rip out pages. She didn't rip out pages.
No, okay,
guys.
No. Right. Okay.
She hid it, and we were like, and then the cameramen they showed it, and so the girls were pissed at us later when they saw it.
Did you feel any danger at all? And with this going on, you're in a foreign country, you're stuck in a terminal.
So
there was one night,
well, I'm glad. Well, I'll let you finish that, Shawne, but let me share with them. So one of the things that while we were still competing, we were introduced to like this Navy SEAL type of, I mean, you know, he was just the man, but he was based in London, and he was like your MacGyver or like your, you think of like a commander in chief who can kick ass. Like he was that dude.
He could probably take us down and
take us
down in 1 second.
Right. He probably killed a few people undercover. And so he's speaking to us. It's 20 teams. So he's speaking to 40 people. He's like, I'm head of security. This is probably one of the few times you will see me on the course throughout the world. He said, but no, I have a team that's out there protecting you. I'm not going to show you who they are. They are out there protecting you. And so he also told us how, and this might be more widely known now, but 10 years ago, I didn't know that diplomats and international reporters, when they travel abroad, or wealthy Americans at the time, because now it seems, especially with our kids studying abroad, this just seems to, some places seem to norm. We were told if we got sick in a foreign country, we're not calling a local ambulance for you. We have private ambulances like reporters, like diplomats do, that will pick you up, take you to, a United Nations or a United States, facility or hospital to take care of you first. We're not going to put you in a third world hospital where you're not going to get proper care. They also had a, when unrest happens, there's something called SOS that reporters and diplomats use before you even go to know if there's some civil unrest. And so they would warn us. So all those things made me feel better. I didn't even know that stuff existed, actually. And there was one time on the race where we were just driving in the wrong direction. I mean, I know it's this way, and we're driving to you might have seen it for 5 minutes. We're driving like 4 hours, and it's no lights or anything. And then like a mile behind us, we see some headlights, and we know that that's them following us. But when Shawne was doing, I'll let Shawne finish, but when Shawne was doing the tightrope, she had to scale a tightrope over 2 buildings in a city. And we had a cabin. As you know, the race is half mental and half luck. When we did it, it was mental, luck, and strength.
Physical,
and physical. And after us, they realized that they need to make it more mental because it was unfair to women, and a lot of us when we're buff, but historically the women weren't as strong as the men, and so they made it less physical after us, and after us was when the first 2 female teams won. But yes, luck.
And not to say it still wasn't difficult, because that mental was very real.
Mental was worse than physical. So the cab who dropped us off at that checkpoint, at that challenge, didn't speak English, and I had to go back. I had to walk Shawne to do the part, and then I had to walk back to go pay him. And he had told me one price, And then I get there, he said, no, that's not the price. And well, he says it in Spanish. And of course, now that my boss is Spanish, I should have taken, our president speaks Spanish, Shawne. He's Cuban American.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know Spanish. And we start fussing at one another. We couldn't understand one another, but I knew he was upset with me. And then a crowd starts to form. The locals start coming around me. And at this point, I'm by myself. And I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I left my cameraman and my audio man and my partner. But I had to go pay. And if you don't pay your taxi, that can hold you up with the race. So I wanted to pay him so we can get moving after she was done. And this crowd forms. And then I see the police come. And I'm like, okay, I'm safe. Here comes the police. Let me talk to the police. And I tried to talk to the police, and they just stood there and were not going to intervene. And I got nervous then. And then I see my MacGyver dude like out my eye 15 minutes later. And he didn't intervene. He just kind of stood there, folded his arms, and just let me know
just in case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Shawne, you were about to say one time you felt scared.
Oh, when we left at night, and all the cities, the thing is, the only thing we had were journals. And that wasn't something they told us to do. We just felt we knew we couldn't take pictures. So to have that, to be able to go back, I should read it actually now. I did go back, sometime right afterwards. But I remember one location we left, and it was the middle of the night, and just being unsure. And actually, you know what? Where I felt a little weird about it was when Steve said to us, he said, "You girl," like he told us. I mean, he's third base coach.
Oh, Steve, the coach.
Yeah, he said to us, he was like, because he felt like, he took us in like we were his children. He's like, you girls need to get in a cab. Don't walk out here. And, here's the thing for Monique and I, we're like, okay, we were in Kenya together. We had some interesting things we had to work through there.
Yeah.
We had studied before. So we're thinking we lived in New York. We can deal with this. We're good. But there was a second where I'm like, okay, wait a minute. And, we did have to think that there was security, but still you just didn't know to what extent they would intervene. And there were things that still, it felt like this could be a bit risky. So there were times, and it was the unknown. I mean, from place to place. The one thing though, I'll say what took over more so was adrenaline, and the fact that you were just exhausted. So you didn't know when you were going to get money again at different pit stops. And it didn't, like, when you watch the race, it flows together, but there's so much. I mean, people getting a flat tire, one team getting stopped by the police, and having to pay. So all of these real life things were happening while the race was going. Oh yeah, the one city where when at my sciatic, there was someone who got really sick, maybe from food or something. So they had to call in the doctor.
They actually went to the emergency room. I remember seeing the episode.
Oh, wow.
It was I think it was the newly formed couple or something.
Oh, oh, wow. That's so funny. See all these things that you just, and we're not seeing all of this, and forget the stories, because we did come together to talk about a lot of this too.
Did that get to a point where you felt it was too much for you? It was like, I just want.
Oh, absolutely.
Was it worth it? Was it?
I would say I didn't feel like, I felt like that once we got eliminated and we were sequestered. So what people don't know is because they don't want people to know who won, after you get eliminated, they sequester you. So we were sequestered, and you guys might not feel sorry for us. We were sequestered in Puerto Vallarta. We were in President Nixon's old mansion on a hill in Puerto Vallarta, which was beautiful.
With 3 pools. It was
it was gorgeous, right? But we were a prisoner in paradise. We left our families, and the younger couples, the married couples who had older kids, they were in heaven, who got eliminated because they were with their loved ones. And Shawne, and I love her, but I couldn't kiss her. I couldn't kiss her. I could snuggle, I couldn't.
And you missed your family. You missed what was normal.
Our families, which people who can, Shawne brought me comfort all the time, but so it's like a prisoner in paradise. And just to say, like I said, social media is different now. And even though our husbands, our families we couldn't tell, anyone where we were, and our kids couldn't tell, our husbands couldn't tell. I tell people, you know, either at the time Eric was, you know, trying to make, oh, at the time my sister was a flight attendant. Oh, she went to travel the world with her sister or whatever. And I think some of my neighbors and friends was looking at Eric side-eyed, like, bury her in the backyard. And when I came back, I had this tan. I was dark. I mean, I was chocolate. And my friends were looking at me, and I swear some of my neighbors, and not that this is a bad thing, but like, I think Monique went to rehab. I think they should go to rehab. You know? And I still couldn't tell anything until they started promoting the show. But when we were in South America, there are people who can, if you guys remember when Amazing Race first came on, the signature thing were the backpacks and teams
the red and yellow, that
different colors. So there were people chasing it. When we were running someplace, it would be even people from around the following us. You're on the Amazing Race. And we're like, no, we're not. Yes, you are. Let me help you. Come this way. And we had to decide whether we were going to trust them. And, you know, because it could save us money. It could save us time. I know a better way. And we were like, oh, God, please protect us. Okay, we're going to go with the stranger. And sometimes we ran into a number of kids who were so cute, studying, traveling the world, backpacking, doing their
by themselves.
By themselves. It was just, I remember giving this one girl boyfriend advice. She must have been all of 19.
They were coming out the bar drunk. They come out of a bar
and giving us
and
money.
They're like, they recognized the clue. And the girl, it was so weird. She kind of like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. And we had to have a release signed by them, but we couldn't say, it was weird. It was so surreal. Monique, you said something that with that just made me remember. Do you remember when people in the airport, before we were leaving, there are people who follow the show, like, there's a name for them, but they follow the show to the point where they got tickets to go where we were going. And it was the strangest thing. So it was almost like they talked on the internet, and they would let other people, they were trying to guess where they thought teams were going next. But remember when we saw, there were people like kind of,
so this is what we figured, right? So we realized that even though people weren't supposed to know where we were and our husbands couldn't know, first of all, there were true fans who took who took pictures of it at LAX and put them on blogs.
Oh my gosh,
there's these, so we would have been, Instagram wasn't around. And so Sean's husband sent my husband a link. I think they're on their way to South Africa, because it was just this, you know, this treasure hunt. But what we come to find out now, what is so known now, there are people out there that the studios pay to put information out there to promote. And this one lady, her name was Georgia Peach, who we we're like, she friended us on Facebook, and we're like, how did she get this picture of us? And the studio would give it to her to promote to her social media. It was only Facebook at the time. And so we knew some things were intentionally getting leaked. But yeah.
How did you deal with the pain? There's, I'll put it up there, milking a cow.
Oh,
how did you deal with pain that was going on there? Because I mean,
you're talking about physical pain?
It was physical pain.
Physical and mental, right?
It was physical there too. And both of you had it. There's no doubt you could see it in the episodes.
But thank goodness it was different times. Like, that was scary. Monique was like, oh my gosh, I'll never forget that.
For people who didn't see the episode, I got kicked by a cow. And it was, you remember Suit Talk back, maybe the students won't remember, but it was a show called Suit Talk, and a meme was made of me on getting kicked by this cow. And I was so flabbergasted that I was in pain.
It took you aback.
It took me aback, but what was more surprising is the director, the cameraman, all the people on set, no one reacted. Like, no, I said, is someone going to come to my aid? Like, I was, I could have died. Like, I said, what if I got kicked? And what they balance fear. They balance the risk factor. They're like, okay,
you're okay.
Conversation meeting before the show. Not that I know this, but now in hindsight, this is how it went down. Okay, so 4 of these people are going to get kicked, maybe get kicked in the head. They might get a concussion.
What's the word?
They're not going to die. And so they knew that I was going to get kicked by this cow. They knew it. And so they didn't. But in the moment, I was so upset.
I mean, too, your adrenaline, everything's going. I'll never forget. So you were rushing to get it done. And then that's not what you expect to happen, because you heard like by that time people would tell you like, oh my gosh, go in that place. So certain people would help each other out.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you like, okay, go here or whatever. And so you're thinking, okay, they made it. So clearly we should be okay. But just those things that were just the unknown.
Did they tell you to go to the wrong cow? Maybe it was like a sort of a play. Like there were multiple cows in this.
Yeah, for sure. You go to this cow. Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a total setup. It was a total setup. And the interesting thing I think I shared with you, David, is that so we have formed these alliances, and with Steve, the third base coach, who really took us under his wing, and they would help us and we would help them. On this one clue, Shawne was a cook, and I'm from the city. She's from Virginia, and she can, like I said, she's an excellent cook and knows all these terms. And she knew, and those of us from New York, Dave's from New York. I wasn't from New York, so David knew this, but a baker's dozen. Like I said, what's a baker's dozen? And Steve, the third base coach, who probably was in his late 50s, 60s, he said, what's a baker's dozen? And Shawne gave him that clue. And if it wasn't for Shawne, they would have been eliminated on the second leg. And they came, it's all luck and people helping you. And then he was able, him and his team, they made it they were eliminated not until like the next to the last season, whereas we were eliminated earlier. And he thanked us, he came in third, I think. He said, if it wasn't for Monique and Shawne, we would not have came in third.
That the funny thing is there was a point when people were actually trying to leave. So you asked about, our thing was we didn't think about leaving, but it got tough. It definitely got tough, but our thing was, we're in it. Are you kidding me? All the stuff we went through to be here. But people, I'll never forget the conversations. People were like, okay, you know what? I'm about to fly out of here.
Because it was cold. Frostbit.
People were like, I need to go home. And I remember people saying, I didn't expect it to be like Survivor. They don't show, and we all said that. We're like, they didn't show this on TV. They clearly didn't tell us that we were, some days you had a nice place to sleep. That was the one thing that really got me. Some days you were sleeping in transit. So we're on a bus and we knew, we didn't know what was going to come, but we just knew, you know what, you better take this time to get some rest. And it wasn't a good bus. So that was the thing. It went back and forth. You had luxury or what was semi-luxury to downright just bad. You having to pay to use the bathroom. Remember that? You had to pay to use the bathroom. So we were like, don't drink anything because you're going to have to pay to use the bathroom.
Or Shawne, come in here with me together. We can't open this door twice.
Open the door. We were doing stuff that culturally people were like, whatever. I'll never forget. We're on the plane. And people got mad at us because, and this was real. This was not even filming. People who were flying on the plane going, I forget where we were going. All of the cameramen and everyone had their equipment and we were taking up all the overhead bins. So people were upset with us on the flight and we're like, and we were not giving up our bag. We're like, no, this cannot go under the plane. No,
we can't.
We were like really like standing up like, no, we're not checking it. No. Yeah. And the cameramen weren't going to check their stuff. So that was a little touchy. That was a bit touchy. Some people didn't care. They're like, I don't care what you're doing. But others were, for the most part, people were fascinated by it, when they see you, trying to figure out what was going on. It blew my mind to see people in other countries kind of know what was going on. And then in some places where we just blended in, like, it was like, no one even knows what's happening right now. So it was just such you saw such a stark contrast of different things playing out.
It looked very, very intense.
It was. I'm so curious, and I applaud those people who, like the grandma who's run, and her daughter. They were awesome. She did triathlon.
Too. Yes.
Yeah, she was. We were physically exhausted, and for her to be able to do the things they did, I think Were they eliminated second, Monique?
It was
I can't
second
remember.
eliminated. The first
Second.
one.
Okay.
But she was my inspiration. I mean,
Oh my
she
gosh.
took up being a marathon at 69, and she still sends me, because I ran a couple
Oh,
marathons.
that's awesome.
And Jody, she'll say, "I'm so proud of you, Monique," on Facebook. And I said, "Jody, I couldn't have done this without you. I
That's
have had you in
awesome.
my mind. You've always inspired me." Even before we got on this call, I sent Lou, one of the police officers, the video of me, and he's like, "You're always my star, Amazing Mo. Like, you'll do great." So we formed some great bonds.
Yeah.
You know, the brothers who won. I mean, they were so young. We were so happy for them, and you know,
That
they
was
just,
something.
yeah, it was just we bonded. We have we know secrets about one another, Shawne and I, as well as some teammates on the race that we will never share. And the funny
I'm
thing
not
is, that we will never share. But behind the scenes, you know, we definitely feel like the non-elimination rounds behind the scenes, that's all a setup. It's all, you know, Shawne and I didn't want to be, you know, at the time and even today, stereotyped as, you know, whatever, as
Black
bitchy
women,
women or angry
Mhm.
Black women. And so we were, and Shawne and
That
I,
is key.
we don't typically argue, but in those circumstances, you
Oh, you're
can't-
stressed.
you stress, you get short, and we will always try to cover our mic and like, "Girl, you know you drive me crazy." And so, but and not that we would have acted out of character just to get more airtime, but in hindsight, we realized they wanted that drama. They wanted
the
that
drama
from us,
themselves.
and we just wouldn't give it to them. And so we realized that the elimination rounds, I think they had a reality show from Big Brother, a couple in there who was so sweet. And when it came time for them to be eliminated, they're like, "Oh, this is a non-elimination round." We're like, that's fake. You know, they
Who?
the couple.
People talk about, they talk about those
Yeah,
things.
yeah. So, but everything else was real. You know, how hard those tasks were. You do get close to people. We had a reality show, 10-year anniversary of the show being on TV shortly after we did season 16. And, you know, we saw some contestants that we were there with and who we had known, and people remembered us. And
That was actually awesome.
yeah, that big honcho from my town was there. And he said, "You know, Monique, because," this was like 3 years later, he said, "because we were from the same town, his bosses," and he was a big deal then. He's like, him and his entire family had to sign a waiver and release saying that they did not know my family for me to be on the show, that we didn't know each other or anything. And that's how bad we wanted you and Shawne to be on the show, that we would take that risk, because my town is not that big.
Wow, that's something.
Did you, knowing what you know now, would you have played it up a little bit more to get more airtime? Knowing
That's
how
interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm not angry, but I probably would have been more silly, less, you know, because we were young and we would have loved to have that $1 million. We wanted to make people proud. And I think the older you get, you know, your kids are proud of you. What I didn't expect out of that is that my kids' friends, they began to look up to me. And
Yeah, that was awesome.
you know, we would get cards from their kids, just little cards. "Oh, thank you so much. And so I know you, and can I talk to you?" So we were, you know, that touched us more. I think we just thought we had a lot invested, and we probably, in hindsight, we would have had more. I think we would have more fun now had we gone on the show, right? Because, right, I always tell
now, yeah,
Mother has
life
lived.
is different.
Life is different. Mother has lived. Like, we've been through so much. My daughter, my youngest daughter, at like 2 years after the race, so she must have been 6, when they started having these all-star seasons. And so they picked the Cowboys from our show and didn't pick us, and picked the Globetrotters or whatever. And, like, you know, I said to Micah, "How'd you feel if mommy went and did the Amazing Race again, you know, as an all-star?" And she looked at me and she said, "Well, would you win the $1 million this time? Because if you win the $1 million, you can go. But if not, you're going to lose again."
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You had to have a thick skin with your kids. I actually, you know what? I wouldn't change what, just in terms of how we were. What I kept playing back was, I wish we had gone to the other task, because we, like, literally, people avoided that task, and we went to it and they said, "You all actually did it the fastest." Like, there were a couple of people who chose it, and they said, "You all did it the fastest." So I kept playing back in my mind, I wish we had chosen the other task. We didn't pick it because we saw the horses. I mean, what we were and you literally had to walk a long way. We were
Yeah.
out in the middle of nowhere, walked through cow poop. I mean, I'll never forget that, mud and everything.
Yeah.
But that was the one thing I would have changed. Monique is, well, funny enough, I can be more animated, but you are more of a, you're like, just in terms of being animated. But I thought that there were a lot of things that were cut, Monique, that were actually pretty pretty funny. And they just can't show everything.
They just can't. Yeah, my birthday, she wanted to buy me
oh yeah, I wanted to buy you
I always have a
cake
and candle on
You're
my
like,
birthday.
no,
I can buy you some ice cream, we can put a candle. I was like, nope, we can't afford it.
Save the money. I remember,
Can't afford it.
But no, I think that it was important.
I would have learned Spanish. I would have gone back and
learned
another language, Spanish.
That's a good point. You knew how to drive a stick. That was key. Like she could get us around. That was the one thing the police officers talked about with us. They were like, you all are driving like bats out of hell. So they started following us because we were just like, you know what, do it. You lived in, like we've been in the city. Just do it. Just do it. We'll ask for forgiveness later. But I think that we carried ourselves with respect. And where some people had issue, honestly, after the show, some people did have issue. They talked about it. But the best to me was the email we got from a father and a daughter who watched it. And he talked about, I hope I still have it, but talked about they were so proud to see how we carried ourselves on the show. And when I did do the tightrope, I didn't think about it then, but it was something my godson had said. He had gone through a haunted forest or something and was like, God is with me, God is with me. And that was the first thing that came to mind. But he talked about us carrying ourselves with respect. He said there were lessons that he was able to talk about with his daughter over the course of us being on the show that he thought were invaluable. So that, I'll never forget that. Like that was priceless because I wouldn't have wanted to come home and have to hold my head down. Like there were people when we had chats with each other, there were people who, weren't together after that.
Yeah,
people
friends who got eliminated first, they were so
oh man, they
upset.
were devastated.
Yeah,
they were devastated. I felt good about it. Of course, we would have wanted to be in longer, but going to Puerto Vallarta was like, okay, at first we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get used to being away still, and we're not even running a race. The days were longer, but I mean, first world problems. We're like getting massages and people were making our meals every day.
They taped a mini reality show.
It was Elimination Station. They said people were fascinated to know what happened to the people who got eliminated. I'm like, oh, but Monique, remember, you were like, I don't want to tape another thing. I'm not. And we're like, we didn't want to be on camera. We're like, we're done. What? Please don't make us tape anything else. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, the only thing I would have, if I could have changed anything, because the experience was, I mean, once in a lifetime, but I would have gone, I wish if we had, look, 2020, hindsight, right? But if we could have, I would have gone to the other task.
Shawne, when you had that lassoing experience.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the darn lasso.
Which is
and I prayed.
And it was going, and you see Monique praying. What was going through both your minds at this point here? I mean,
I was thinking we were out.
It looked so painful. I mean, when I
was
on Friday, she said it went on for hours. How did this,
it was a long time. Yeah, it was, I mean, I felt like, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like this is it. Damn it, this is it. This is it. I mean, I'm like, I just wanted to run up and put it on the theme that's so interesting. I have to go back and watch it. Because, I mean, but I remember when you just took me back. And the thing is, we couldn't help each other. Like, you couldn't trade off. So where you're literally getting tired and trying to tell yourself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Am I going to do this? Am I ever going to get this? Yeah. That was, oh man. I remember walking.
Arriving there first by ourselves. When you come to a task by yourself versus getting there at the same time with another team that you have an alliance with, you can talk it out. So just imagine, and luck had it, we had arrived at the same time as the Cowboys. You know what I mean? We would have got it like that because, you know, we were in good with them. You know, whoever they came at the same time as that, you know, they were able to show that. So you just, some things you don't see behind the scene, like, you know, it's just luck. It's a lot of it is
people,
luck.
what I did appreciate, where, you know, you were competing for money, but it did come down to making those alliances, and we had fun. I mean, that was the fun thing behind the scenes, honestly, what you said, Monique, there. People coming together, you saw that, and people from totally different backgrounds. And I remember one day we were just sitting there talking, and we're like, oh gosh, if the cameramen are listening to us now.
Yeah, because I couldn't turn our mics off.
Yeah, so we were forget. So they're like across the room, but they're listening, and they're just falling out. Like, I could see their faces. They're just laughing, like, because you would totally forget. The biggest thing Monique and I did talk about, I'll tell you that you did go through some PTSD, if you will, like afterwards, coming home. I'll never forget when my husband and I flew shortly after that. I will tell you all, it was the craziest thing. I'm like, come on, we gotta go. He's like, what are you doing? I know, but I felt like we had to hurry up. We had to, and I said, I'm not even kidding you. It was the craziest thing to travel in a different way and not be, you know, just rushing to get to the next place. That is the one thing I would say. I wish we had more time to take it in, because you were going so fast. There were certain things that even to talk to each other, we would remind each other of, or that we just forgot. And you're trying to think of it in your mind's eye, like, wow, that happened. Oh my gosh, remember how pretty that was. And all of this, or seeing little kids come up.
Our biggest thing was to see the world. Like, we knew in Kenya that we wanted at a young age to see the world.
And we had been to Brazil. We had
traveled to Brazil together when as a couple, and that was great. So we knew we traveled well together. But we wanted to see the world. For some of your, you know, one thing coming to St. Francis College, it's been my passion to expose our students to various careers that they may not have even thought about, you know, just little things about, you know, so every time we were finished a track, you know, a leg of the race, we couldn't go rest. We had to do an interview with with a producer who would bring things out of us to create a story. So they would get Emmys for creating a storyline. You know, they tried to pit us against this couple, 2 wives, you know, against us. And it wasn't, when you
They weren't
nice. And so they tried to get this war going. I mean, which is, you know, this is the beginning of reality TV. So now, you know, I tell my kids, this is all fake. They making it up. They're acting. So back then we weren't acting, but it was the producers that were getting you to try to get you to say certain things and talk about people, talk about issues that you.
So how'd you feel when that happened?
Right. How'd you feel when, you know, Naomi stepped on your toe? I'm like, did she step on my toe? I don't even remember that. Well, that would have been nice, you know. So they're trying to get things out you. And even the cameraman, you know, some people may, you know, if you go to school for audio visuals or you know, get your degree in communications and you know, get a job, you know, being a cameraman, you know, just imagine becoming a cameraman for a show like that. You see the world for free and you're getting paid for it. And our audio and cameraman our cameraman had to keep, our audio man could be like 50 feet away from us and still hear us, but our cameraman had to be right there with us. So when
they were running.
He was a gazelle. He had to run. And that back then the cameras were still big. So it's like 40 pounds. And sometimes we were running for a mile or 2 and he was right there with us. So just different opportunities. Like I tell people, just stretch your mind and learn about a business before you decide to, you know, you don't want to go into, because there's so many occupations you can go into different fields.
That's a good point.
I have a meeting. I have to jump. I don't, you know.
Okay. Last question. I'll let you go. What if you, what would you say was your biggest regret? And also one other question I had for you is, what did you do as far as, did they pay you anything for all of this?
You didn't get paid while you were on the show, but based on when you were eliminated, you got paid. We did get money also when we were at the elimination station. But yeah, so no, it wasn't anything close to the $1 million, but you did get money based on when you were eliminated.
But much less than $1 million.
Oh
like,
gosh.
less than 6 figures, less than 5 figures.
Did it actually cost you money to be on the show?
Well, the things that you purchase, like, I mean, this jacket that I am still wearing.
Right, and
because
Shawne
it's nice and
was an
warm.
entrepreneur. I think both her and her husband were entrepreneurs at the time. So yeah, so they, she sacrificed her
business-wise.
her business.
But the exposure did, I mean, it was great.
It helped your hair business and stuff. Yeah, we got like Working Mothers magazine, paid for us to come to their conference and travel. And we got some, we definitely, as you see now, a number of reality, in the beginning, reality TV contestants, not star, were able to make some were able to make another leap into a TV show or something like that. So we were definitely hoping, and I continued. I had I had a women's magazine for women at the time. I was hoping to promote. Shawne had her hair business, and we were hoping to come together to really someone, invest in us to inspire and uplift women. I swear Jada Pinkett took my show idea, because I came to Shawne with that idea. I said, I need a mother and daughter show. Shawne, let's do it with our mothers and our kids.
Did say that,
I had that first. So you put it out in the universe, and then somebody steals it. So.
Very, very last question, I promise you. How did this bring you all together closer, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was, I would say, because we talked about this earlier, there were experiences that we will never have with anyone else, not even with our spouses, you know what I mean? And one thing it taught me, and I will say, like, you can't sweat the small things. Certain things that, it does expose certain things about your personality. But what I was proud about, and we talked about this right afterwards, Monique, when we did interviews, that we were able to still remain friends. Of course, our lives now with our kids, you're busy, and we respect that. We are where, it's a space where we are, but we know we can come together and know that we still have that love for each other.
Yeah.
And
many people stopped talking afterwards. They broke up, friends.
Yeah, we found out, we're like, wait a minute, what happened to so-and-so?
We promised, we said, no matter what happens, we will not blame each other for winning.
And that was the best part.
Together. We are in this together.
Because to be honest, now that you asked that, if we had won the money and not be friends, it wouldn't have been worth it. So I feel like it was such an amazing experience. The one thing I love is that our kids, and to hear our husbands like just so proud of us, and I'm like, it was such a good feeling to hear my daughter think I was cool. I don't think she thinks I'm cool anymore.
Right.
That was very short-lived.
At the time.
Right. But to show them too that just take a chance.
Right.
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
My husband teases me to this day. He teases me, baby, can you come, help me with this big box? Oh, you're the amazing Monique. You were on The Amazing Race. You could do that. He teases me to this day. You could do it. And I look at him. He said, okay. Maybe you would have won. You would have picked up this garbage, but okay.
Okay. But if you would have won, you would have gotten a subscription to a golf course.
Exactly. That's what David found one of our old interviews. And I said I would have gotten him a golf.
I love it.
All right, I want to thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
And Shawne, thank you so much. And we would love to do this again sometime if we could do it.
For sure.
Maybe in person this time under better circumstances.
Yes, indeed. We'll be happy. Shawne,
How about that?
Yeah, Shawne will come to New York and hang out with us.
Right. Sure. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much for everybody there. I really appreciate you joining us. And I'll let you know when the next webinar is. For me, Professor David Gewirtz, for Monique Pryor, and for Shawne Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. My class, please stay here, and I will see you all real soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care. Have a good day, you all.
Bye-bye.